Hello, this is a quick guide to creating paths in Levelhead. Paths are one of the most important tools in creating your levels as they have both a function and a visual component to them. Paths can be created with this button down here, the path editor, or pressing tab, which allows you to create a new path. By default, it creates a fly block right here, which travels along the path. If you want, you can go into your settings menu, editor, and turn that off, which I recommend doing. So now when you create a new path, there won't be anything attached to it. Most of my paths don't have fly blocks on, so it's just a waste of time for me to have to delete that. When you create a path, you have these nodes that you can place around. Those nodes are what attach to objects that can move. So, for example, fly block, attach it to the node, and now we'll move along that path. As long as you have a node, you can put as many things on top of that as you want. They all move together. When you go to the Path Editor menu, it allows you to click on the nodes of different paths to select them, click and drag them, as well as add new nodes on. You also have a new set of tools on the left-hand side. You can insert nodes or delete nodes. Nodes exist on a separate layer from everything else. You can have paths cross. However, path nodes cannot intersect other nodes. But they can go on a path separate from itself. When you have a path selected, you can change its settings, increase its speed, decrease it, as well as have a negative speed. You can also change what it does when it gets to the end of its path. So this time it will stop at the end. Of course, you can also change their visuals. You have many different options, including a no visual option, as well as there are to be more in the future. The end action is what it will do when it gets to the end of the path. By default, it can either reverse directions and start traveling backwards, or stop, in which case when it gets to the end of the path, it stops. You also have this option called closed, which causes the path to loop back on itself. This time, you have an option called restart. And so now, when it gets to the end of it, it will repeat. If you leave it on reverse, when it gets to the end, it'll go back to the beginning again. As with all numbers that you see here, you can click on the number itself for the speed to get a specific speed if you want to do specific timing. And of course, you also have a channel that you can hook it up to. So let's hook this one up to channel 0. So when we turn it on, we have another speed we can set. So now we can turn it on and off. Of course, we can change the inactive speed. So we can have it going slow, and then fast, and then slow, and then fast. We could also set the other speed to be negative. So now we have backwards and forwards. Let's say we have a few paths that we want to act all the same. You do have the option to copy and paste path properties. Let's say we have a path, we change its settings, want it to stop, increase the speed, set it to channel 20. If we copy it, we can paste it later to a different path. And now those will both function the exact same way. Or we can change one of them. But when you take, rather than copy an object or a path, you copy its properties. So we copy and we paste its properties to another path. Here are all the objects that can be placed on paths. Super dupes are notable in that if they attack you, they will leave their path, but then afterwards they will get back on. Scale popped objects like the Whizblade or Fire, if it's 2x2, it has to be put in the bottom left corner. It won't connect anywhere else. And 3x3s have to be connected in the center. Same thing with gems, and the large gems have to be the center left. And signs have to be the bottom square. This will also center it on that square. So this Whizblade will now be centered inside of that path. One fun use of paths is their ability to stop at the end of a path. This allows you to stack multiple things up together. So if we have a spike chainer and also a Bernie whirler, those will path on top of each other. This could be used to create something like this. One use case is a situation like this, where we want a cave, but having them in the wall like this, you can just jump through. And having them stick out looks a little funny. What you can do is take a path, move it into a solid spot, set it to stop, and now we have a solid block we can't jump through. If we want to change their looks even more, we can path into a different type of solid block and put an enclosure over top of that, and now it's seamless with the rest of the cave. Of course, paths can be used for much more than just functional, but they can also be visual elements. Say we have ourselves a cave. It's just a cave. But if we add paths, change it to the wiggly vines, now we've got some texture in the background. This can be used for all sorts of visuals. For example, we could build a giant bridge and use various paths to create chains and dangling vines.